Welcome to Wisdom for Nonprofits, bringing the best business wisdom to the nonprofit world. Proven leaders share their experience, insights, and best practices. Finally, a podcast for the busy nonprofit professional. And now, your trusted advisor, Betina Pflug.
Welcome to another episode of Wisdom for Nonprofits, the podcast that equips nonprofit leaders and change makers with practical tools, strategic insights, and inspiring stories to help you build a stronger and more sustainable organization. I'm your host, Betina Pflug, an international coach specialized in the nonprofit ecosystem. In today's episode, it's all about building a workplace culture that truly works for people, especially within the nonprofit sector, where passion is always higher, but sometimes resources can be limited. I'm joined by the incredible Dr. Tiffany E, Slater, a visionary HR strategist, a speaker, and the CEO of HR TailorMade. With over 25 years of experience, Dr. Tiffany partnered with nonprofits and also small businesses to create people-first cultures that retain talent, drive impact, and operate more efficiently without burnout. That's important, without burnout. In this conversation, we will explore how leadership, empathy, and strong HR foundations can radically improve your organization and how you run things over there. We will discuss the high cost of a poor onboarding process, why employees experience starts longer before day one. They are already engaged with your nonprofit for sure, and how to use an HR audit to uncover gaps and opportunities in your current system. If you are a nonprofit founder, an executive director, an HR manager, or even a team leader looking to create a thriving, value-driven culture that supports your mission, this episode is for you. Let's start with the brilliant Dr. Tiffany. Thank you so much for joining me from United States here to our podcast. I'm right now in Australia, but soon moving to Switzerland, so it's an honor to have you here, Tiffany.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tiffany, your background in HR spans corporate, nonprofit, and entrepreneur spaces. What inspired you to create HR TailorMade, and what is your focus with nonprofits?
What inspired me to create HR TailorMade was the fact that I was no longer enjoying working for other people. And so I've done human resources at this point almost 30 years now, and there was nothing else that I knew how to do but human resources. So honestly, I didn't have a choice. I was either going to be a person who would clean hotel rooms or a human resources consultant. And I decided to do it for small businesses and nonprofit organizations because those are typically the organizations that are too small to hire their on-site human resources people. And so I knew that they would benefit from our services.
Oh, I love it. We had a previous conversation and you mentioned that people aren't the problem. Your process is, and I really love that phrase. I would like you to go deeper. And what do you mean about it? People are not the problem, the process is.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And I'll put a caveat in there. People aren't always the problem. Your process usually is. But what happens a lot of times is we put expectations on our team members, and we've not given them the parameters. We haven't given them all of the details for them to be successful. We haven't provided them with all of the tools and the resources that they need to be successful. We haven't communicated effectively. We haven't developed processes in a way that would ensure sustainability and continuity in our organization. So a lot of times we get frustrated with people as a result of them doing something that we have not effectively communicated or prepared them well enough to be successful at doing.
I agree. And then let's start with the onboarding process, how important it is and where it starts. What could you say about the onboarding process?
The onboarding process is very important. It's a really essential piece to helping the team member get up to speed, to really understand the organization that they have now become a part of, to understand how they contribute to the success of the organization, and to really get a feel for the culture that exists in the organization. And when I say culture, I think, first of all, a lot of people have a different definition of it. But when I say culture, I mean, what does it feel like to be a part of this organization? What are some of the unwritten rules, the norms that are a reality in the organization that just happen? For example, on maybe Fridays, it's normal for no one to schedule meetings after 12 o'clock or at all on a Friday. Maybe it's not written down somewhere, but it's a part of the culture. It's a way that we do business and the way that we operate internally. So that's what I mean when I talk about culture. And so onboarding is the initial open door for the new team member to really understand their role in the organization.
Yeah, and when we say that the onboarding process starts long before day one, what do you mean about it? And how can we prepare to receive a new employee or a new volunteer in our organization?
Yeah, so the onboarding blah, blah, blah. The onboarding process definitely starts long before the first day of employment. And it starts as soon as the person says yes to the position and yes to the organization. So when they accept the position, that's when the onboarding process starts. It's important to utilize that time to let the employee know how excited you are about them joining the team. And you want to continue to let them know that so that they can continue to be excited about it. You also want to use that time to gather all of the details that you need in order to get them started on the first day. For example, all of their usernames and passwords, if they need keys, if they need a laptop and a phone number and business cards, like all of those things, get all of those things in place before their first day.
We were talking about what happened in advance before the employee starts. And I think also setting expectation with the employee is super important, and the volunteer, what they can expect on the day number one. For example, if you have organized an integration, who they're going to meet, what time they should come, what should they wear, what they can bring, where they're going to eat. Those are questions that they have in their mind, and sometimes they don't ask. So if you can provide with an email with instructions on how they can, what they can expect the first week, will be very comforting, I think, in my opinion. What do you have to say about it?
I agree wholeheartedly. It lets them know that you are prepared. It lets them know that it was important, that their employment was important enough for you to take the time to map out their week. I think leaders will also find a sense of ease when they put together an agenda for the week for their new hire. I've experienced onboardings or the first week of employment where people are scrambling to give the new hire something to do, or they park them in front of a computer and have them read a ton of documents, or doing a ton of trainings or new hire paperwork, things that they could have done before their first day. So it's important that you really take the time to be thoughtful about the way that the new hire is going to spend their first week minimum. I would even say their first 90 days. It doesn't have to be planned out to the hour, but on a weekly basis, you should know what that person should have accomplished by the end of that week.
I totally agree. And I think giving them a big picture of the organization on the first day is so important, or even the first week. If they understand the strategy of the organization, where the organization is moving towards, what are the resources needed for this change to happen, what is the importance of the department that this person is joining, and what is the importance of their role to help the organization achieve this mission. Because once they're connected to the biggest vision that we have, they will feel belonging. I think everything that someone wants is to have this feeling, okay, I belong, I'm part of it. And the onboarding process has this goal of making this person feel they belong to your organization.
Absolutely. It I, another way of ensuring that is making sure that all of the work that you do during the onboarding part is not undermined by the culture of the organization. So you do this great job of onboarding people and creating a great atmosphere that makes them excited. But once the onboarding process is over, they go to work and it's like, this is nothing like my onboarding experience. These people are not nice. This is terrible. And the customers are mean, right? So you want to make sure that the culture that you are creating for your team lives up to the excitement that you're creating for your new employees. So you've got to do both. You've got to have a great place for people to work, and you've got to have a great onboarding process if your goal is to keep people on your team for the long haul.
Yeah, and when you said the expectations and how should an employee behave inside the organization, I remember when I was working with nonprofits in the United States, how important it is to have a code of conduct. Because nowadays it's really hard to understand how can we position ourselves on social media, for example. We just started in a new nonprofit. We're very excited. We want to start posting everything. And it's very important to understand the code of conduct of the organization. Some organizations have a special privacy with their stakeholders. And it's important for you to understand and to prepare for a new employee to understand what are the rules, what they can post, what they cannot post. And can I expose pictures of people that are involved with the organization or not? And understand the expectations on that too, the social media and internally the policy to prevent future mistakes. Like you're saying, if they know, maybe they do mistakes because they don't know how to position themselves.
Very true. And during the onboarding process, typically an individual will walk through some of the policies and procedures and the code of conduct with the new employee so that they are familiar with the policies and processes in the organization. So I agree. I think it's very important. One of the failures that I think I've seen is giving the employee handbook and not covering some of the things that are in it because people are not going to read it. They're just not going to read it until they have a question about something. And typically, it's not a question about conduct. It's typically about they're looking in the handbook for a benefit that they get. So it's important that we definitely take the time to go through the handbook.
And explain it. And you, as an HR support organization for nonprofits, how do you help them build this process?
Well, we of course have our own process that we've developed, and based on what the organization finds of value, we craft our onboarding using our process as a starting point, and then we build it out for our clients based on their culture, based on their needs, and based on some of the things that are required as a result of how they operate. There may be some requirements that the government may have on specific organizations, and we may have to build those pieces into the onboarding process where we may not have had to do it for others. So we definitely want to understand the organization that we're building the onboarding process for, and we want to create something that is specific to that organization. One of the things that we always include is that the executive director or the president is the person that does the welcome on the first day and is the person who talks about the mission, vision, and values of the organization. It's very important that team members hear the same message all the time. And the only person that can really sell the mission, vision, and values is the leader of the organization. And that is a Tiffany opinion.
No, I agree with you. I think it's so important to get them involved, and even inviting other people that will be supporting this person on the onboarding process to hear it again. It's always nice to reinforce. And something that I saw that was very helpful was having like a godmother, a godfather, someone who will be your person in the organization, not your direct boss, but elect someone in the team that could be your to-go person for questions. The
Yes.
culture questions that you said. It's so important for you to pair this new employee or new volunteer with someone that you trust, that will be there for them to small questions. For example, where do you normally go to eat? Or if I have an emergency, can I leave earlier? Those kind of questions that you're not sure you could ask directly to your boss, but you have a to-go person in the organization.
Yes, that's a really great point.
On the material on the process of the onboarding, is there anything else that you recommend to your clients that you think it's important and valuable?
I do. I think it's important that we not eat up time with new hire paperwork. I think that all of the new hire paperwork should be sent to them before their first day, if possible. And we want to make sure that they send it back to us so that we can get it entered and we're ready to go on their first day. And we're not sitting there and watching them fill out forms. Obviously, if they need some support with that, that's something that we can do. But other than that, I don't think that's a great use of their time. I also think that, I also think that on the first day, we should have some sort of social activity with the new team members. For example, maybe everybody, maybe everybody meets at the coffee shop for the first half of the morning, and the welcome is more social than stuffy, if that fits your culture, right? That's important to note. That may not be a good culture fit. But the other one, maybe we do lunch together so that we can just talk about ourselves and not so much about work. But also, that's a great time for the godmothers or godfathers or mentors to come in and meet them and have lunch with them and create an opportunity for people to just get to know each other on a human level as opposed to a working relationship.
Yeah, that's very important. At the end, we are human beings, and I truly believe that the work is an instrument we have in the world to become the best version of ourselves. And we need to take advantage of that. Something that I think it's very valuable, Tiffany, and I want to discuss with you is sometimes the job description, it's not 100% accurate with exactly what you're going to do in the organization. So I see very helpful. I think it's very helpful to have, after like 1 or 2 weeks of the integration process, onboarding process, that the employee writes down what they understood their job description is, all the responsibilities, not the job description, the responsibilities they have to do. Sometimes on the job description, you just say marketing overview. Maybe you need to go down and split a little bit more. I will be responsible for the newsletter, I will be responsible for managing events. Just really put it down, all the tasks you need to do to execute well your job. And then After you have this clear, validate this with your direct report. Is this what you're expecting from me? Okay. Then you try to put this in time blockings. How you can manage in your calendar to do that efficiently. Are enough hours to execute everything they expected from you? And be kind to yourself. In the first 3 months, you won't be able to speed up. So give it time and adjust the time blocks in as you go. But having this validation of what do you expect from me after a few days, I think it's very important. How do you normally support your clients on this creation of a job description and then having them executing the job description afterwards?
What I think is important is that we get away from the traditional way of writing job descriptions, where we're literally just listing a bunch of tasks, but we're not clear on why we're listing those tasks. So the way that I like to write job descriptions is to indicate what are the outcomes that this position is responsible for. And then below the outcome, for example, to generate revenue for the organization, right? You can have a general one, but roughly, I mean, I think that's a really clear one. Generate revenue for the organization, right? Well, below that, call donors, keep track in River's Edge, like list all the things that will contribute to the success of that thing that they're responsible for. That allows people, when they see a job posting or when they see a job description, very clearly whether or not they are doing their job. Because the goal of any job is to accomplish a goal, is to contribute something to the organization other than just doing a task. I can hire anybody to answer phones. I can hire anybody to sweep floors. I can hire people to call donors. But if you're not going to get money from the donors, then you're not successful in that job. So I think we need to change the way we write job descriptions and be more clear on why those tasks that we listed are important and how they are benefiting the advancement of the mission.
Yeah, that's why it's important what you said at the beginning, to connect the new employee to the mission of the organization. Yeah, I like what you said. Now let's talk a little bit about the method of teaching new employees. I love using the EDGE method. The EDGE method comes from the scouting program, and it's really, really clear and works pretty well. And E stands to explain. D is demonstrate, then guide and enable. So it's very important for you to explain then, and you do it in front of the employee. The next one, you guide them, you let them do it, and you are supervising, and then you finally enable them to execute the task. If you have that in mind, not just say, oh, go and try yourself. It's very important to explain how you do it, why you do it that way, then demonstrate, guide, and enable. Do you have any other suggestions on how they can pass the knowledge to the employee?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I worked in public education for 13 years. And one of the things that we heard the elementary teachers say all the time was the I do, we do, you do method. So I will do it first, then we will do it together, and then you do it. And so it's exactly what you said. It's just, I think, a simplified way of, of saying it. So I think that's really important. I also think that it's important that we have documented ways of doing things. So I love all of the tools that are available to us now, the Loom video availability, the clips that's available on Zoom, where in both of these tools, you're able to record your screen and talk through what you're doing. So I think those are super helpful. And we need to, as organizations, get better at having a library of clips that show people how to do things.
I love what you said. I was going to talk about Loom. The first thing that I do when I help someone do onboarding process is create a Trello board. And on that Trello board, what I put it in the first column is the organization resources. For example, access to all the softwares they have, passwords, and important information from the organization, phone numbers, list of employees, all the resources they need to have. The second column on Trello, I put is all the trainings. Exactly like you explained. If someone demonstrated to me something, I normally record a Loom video when I'm doing or when the person is doing, and I put it on this training. Could be also step by step. For example, you can record the meeting or just have your notes, go on ChatGPT and write a step-by-step process. For example, are you responsible to do MailChimp newsletters? Okay, let someone demonstrate to you, then you write the step-by-step and put it back there on this training column. The next one is the one that I mentioned about the responsibilities. What are your responsibilities? Then your to-do list, what you're going to do to execute, what's pending, what you delegated to someone else, and what was done. By having this clearly, you can even have a column, questions to do for my direct boss or for the meeting. And then in that way, you can organize yourself to be able to have something concise and direct to talk to your team. If you have questions, a to-go place, and something that will guide you on the first 3 months until you know everything how's supposed to flow.
Mm-hmm. That's a great idea. I like the structure, and I think that we fail a lot of times as leaders at being so structured. But and I think there are some people that feel like that is too confining, too structured. I don't. I agree with you. I think the first couple months of employment, we should create that structure for people so that they know what to do. They know where things are. And then once they have a couple months under their belt and they're clearer about their job and what resources are available to them, then maybe they don't have to continue to use the Trello board or whatever the process is. They can use a process that works better for them. But I definitely think that initially the structure is important.
Talking about structure, you have an 8-step onboarding checklist, and this is a game changer for employee retention. Can you explain why you created and what's the content of this checklist?
Yeah, I kept getting a lot of questions from people about onboarding. What do we need to do to onboard? Or can you create an onboarding process for us? And so I thought it just made sense to make a checklist so that people could utilize the information that's there so that they could understand how to create an onboarding process for their own organization, for their own team. And essentially it's 8 top things that we recommend that you do for onboarding so that your onboarding experience is positive for the people that you're bringing onto your team.
And some nonprofits, they're small, they have less than 50 employees. Sometimes they don't have an HR department. How do you think they can professionalize this area and make it more up to date? Sometimes they don't have this resource internally. What is your suggestion?
Well, their suggestion first is to call HR TailorMade. That's the first suggestion. But if they can't work with a fractional human resources organization, they definitely want to follow the steps in the checklist. And they want to, I always say that we need to be kind to ourselves. You're not going to build a perfect onboarding process the first time around. It may take you 6 months to get all of the steps completed on the checklist. But the point is you need to start somewhere so that you can start building an onboarding process that is exciting and that provides your new team members with what they need to be successful.
Oh, that's wonderful. I was working in the United States for several years, and over there, I work closely with United Way. I know that United Way offer fractional professionals, but for sure, getting in touch with someone that's an expert in the area, hire them even for a few hours, but have a professional eye inside the organization makes a huge difference, mainly for retaining professionals. Do you have any tips on what an organization can do to retain professionals?
Well, that is one of the things that we do actually as fractional HR providers. We provide or we work on a retained basis with our clients. So we're essentially their virtual HR department. Now, if an organization is looking for more support and they want a one person that is responsible for their organization and they want to call that person their CHRO or their director of HR, then the best way of going about it is to post perhaps a position on the job search boards and post that you're looking for a consultant or a contractor on a retained basis.
But to retain employees, I mean, to keep your employees longer in the organization, do you have any tips on what the executive directors could do to retain? Because the salaries sometimes are not attractive compared to for-profit organizations. What are the tricks they can use to retain employees in a nonprofit organization?
That's a definitely a question that so many people ask and is on the hearts and minds of probably every organizational leader. What's important to know is that there are no tricks. It's all about treating people well. It's about making sure that you are creative with the benefits that you are providing so that the salary that you're able to offer to them doesn't look as undesirable as we may think. For example, if you're offering someone a position and the only thing that you can only pay $10,000 less than what your competitors pay, then what are some of the other creative benefits that you can provide that will be just as appealing to this particular person or to people in general? Right now, the big thing is people working virtually. If virtual is okay for your team, think about how you can make that a reality. Maybe virtual every single day is not an option, but what about 2 or 3 days a week? So be creative, and we don't have to be so rigid on things. The other thing is maybe you can't provide medical insurance at 100%, but can you pay for dental and vision? So those are some of the things that we need to do and think about in the organization to ensure that we're being creative. One of the most important things that we can do to make people want to stay with our organization is to make sure that our leaders are well prepared to lead people. Sometimes we put people in leadership positions and they're not effective leaders, and we leave them there because they are technically sound. But we need people that have the soft skills that can actually lead people to be successful.
That's wonderful. That's when a coach comes handy in place to help develop leadership skills in people that are good executors, but they can become great leaders. Understanding the different personalities, creating a diverse team. So that's a role of a coach, probably, if you're in that spot in your organization. Yes, I really love all your reflections. I think the benefits can mean much more than the salary. For example, a lot of females, they have the big challenge of having a job and also running the house and be present in the kids' life. So if you are able to understand the needs of your employees, for example, even on the onboarding, understand what is important for them. If an employee have a kid with special needs and needs to leave early 2 days in a week to take them to a physician or to a special class, if you're able to do that, this will mean so much to them more than a salary, the flexibility. So understanding the needs, I think every relationship is an exchange. You give and you take, you give and you take. And it's important to understand what is the need of this volunteer, what is the need of this employee. And this is all based on good communication. And probably HR is the pillar to help develop good communication in the organization.
Yes, agreed.
Do you have any other tips you like to share with nonprofit professionals? Any mistakes you come and see in organizations that you help fix?
Yes. One of the mistakes that I'm navigating now with a client is when a person leaves the organization abruptly, the people that follow behind them that still have to do the work, there's nothing there for them to go off of. There are no checklist that says this is how you do this particular thing that this role is responsible for. There are no username and passwords. There's no information to help them understand all the tools that they need to have access to do the job. So what's important is, one, we need to create systems so that we do not allow people to handicap us. We don't want people to put us in a position where we cannot function because they are not there. So it's important that we have password keepers, and whoever is responsible for accessing that particular software or tool, we share the password with them in a way that they don't see the password and they can't change the password. So someone at the organization is always in control of the passwords for the organization and the systems that that particular role is responsible for. The other thing that's really important is we need to all have documented processes. So when a person leaves, you're not scrambling to figure out, one, what they were doing, and two, how they did it. So it's not fair to the organization that we have people that have been in jobs for years and nobody can do what they do. That is not an effective way of running an organization because we put ourselves in danger that way.
Yeah, and a good idea on how to approach that from the beginning is explaining your employees or your volunteers is you need vacation. So why don't you prepare guideline on what people should do when you're not here, when you're on vacation, enjoying your family. And because they have something good to think about it, they will put all the effort to prepare a document that will allow them to enjoy their vacation. And that's important. Maybe planning also job rotations, maybe one week a year, you try a different position in the organization to be able to understand what are the challenges and even to give new ideas on how this process can be done in a more efficient way. So preparing a document, you can call it, this is your vacation, to go vacation documentation. And then it also can be used when someone leaves.
That's a great idea. I love that. And then I've also run into situations where people don't want to do that because they believe that someone will be able to take their job. They want to be the only one who knows how to do things. And so another approach, if you think you may have some people who are resistant, another approach is to set aside one day a quarter where everybody is responsible for creating 2 standard operating procedures. And they have to submit them and they have to swap with someone else. And that other person has to test it to see if all of these steps have been added.
That's wonderful. I love your ideas. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you.
I would like to end here saying this for me was a powerful conversation. We had here Tiffany Slater today, and we were reminded that HR isn't just a function. It's the heart of nonprofits culture. It shapes how people show up, how they stay engaged, and ultimately how your mission moves forward. That's so important. If today's episode sparked new ideas for how to better support your team and strengthen your system, be sure to explore Dr. Tiffany's free resources. As we mentioned here, she is offering an 8-step onboarding checklist on her website. It's HRTailorMade.com. Her expertise is essential for nonprofit leaders who want to lead with clarity, compassion, and effectiveness. And if you're navigating leadership challenges in your organization or feel ready to grow into the next version of yourself as a nonprofit leader, I would love you to support with my one-on-one coaching. Together, we will align your personal mission with your leadership style and build a strategy that supports both your people and your own purpose. You can visit my website, is witchy.tech, to schedule a call if you want. Thank you for tuning in to the Wisdom for Nonprofits. And if you found valuable today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with your fellow change makers who is working to build a better world. One team, one mission at a time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Wisdom for Nonprofits. To hear past and future episodes, please subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast channel. We appreciate your reviews and suggestions for future show topics. If you have a question or a suggestion, please write to us at podcast@wity.tech. More resources are available for you at our website, wity.tech. And please join us in the Wisdom for Nonprofits group on LinkedIn. Wisdom for Nonprofits is copyright 2019 by Betina Pflug and wity.tech. All rights reserved.